Right, good morning or good afternoon. Once again, good whatever it is that you are currently celebrating during the day without the week being any bit of a hard, I say a hard pass on you. Let's get into this lesson 55. This is compiling news, sport, traffic, and weather, part 10 of 12. And it's a very, very short lesson. So it comes from Valerie Geller's book, Beyond Powerful Radio, chapter 27, Integrating News and TV News, page 307 to 312. So let's get into the short lesson. And it is all about, once again, as the headline more says there, or the headline of this particular lesson, integrating radio and TV news. All right. So in terms of being able to understand the different roles that media plays, we do have to also see what roles certain media can only play as well. We have discussed before that radio has its advantages or its perks, or it's definitely its winning formula of being real time medium in comparison to, let's say, TV or print or digital, which has a bit of a delay on it. But the thing is that at the end of the day, if we look at these traditional mediums, especially radio in particular, and also to a large extent print, right? We've seen that radio has to be present. Radio has to be present, let me just say this correctly. It has to be present both in a visual space as well as, let's say, a blog space or a print space, definitely on social media, which obviously comprises of very varied, should I say, different types of posts. I'd say which can include obviously visuals or just text or images and text or video and text or whatever it is, or live sessions, right? Um, but we're finding also that some radio stations, the latest being Prime Media, will start their own TV network, right? And something in the sense of what we saw many, many years ago with Five. Five had something called, I think it was Five Live, right? That there was a TV show that aired, I think on the SABC as well, which was it's a big. I get that the Five FM is part of the SABC, but to get something obviously approved and then broadcast on a national medium or fun platform like the SABC one, two, or three is quite a massive feat as well. So with this kind of bridge of where we're trying to infiltrate different areas of different mediums and also make a name for ourselves there as part of extending the brand. How is the trend of radio and television newsrooms converging together provided a cordial sharing of resources among former rivals in the news business? Well, let's see. Like, I mean, how can radio news people learn to leave space for pictures, and how can TV news people learn to tell better visually oriented stories? The thing is that when you do look at, let's say, trying to break into the television industry from a radio perspective, it's a lot more difficult, only because of the mass skill set that is associated with the visual spectrum of what television offers, right? We find a lot of television broadcasters and also professionals filter quite easily into radio because it's an audio and so a quote unquote less, I say, effort driven, which is a bit unfair to say, but it truly is, right? There's a lot of different moving parts in television broadcasts, especially live television broadcasts that have to be run obviously from the control room, managing like a good producer and executive producer and obviously technical handlers that do manage that kind of like very fluid process. It's got to gain a lot of respect. So the a television practitioner is 10 to 1 easily adaptable within a radio environment, not so easy the other way around because of again, as a radio professional practitioner, you'd be lacking definitely a lot of the skills. All right, but the thing is, again, this kind of like symbiotic relationship, does it exist? Oh, it does exist when you think of, let's say a mother brand, right? So we obviously have a head conglomerates. So we have, let's say, media, right? That might have different facets, right? So let's say let's just look at ETV. an ENCA and an ENCA News, where they might be able to definitely, share a lot of content in between their own space and their own ownership of. We might have, let's say Akakisos sharing information, content, whatever it may be, resources, especially with their own, let's say list of stations and sister stations that exist amongst that particular, bouquet, right? Kakiso doesn't obviously just own, radio stations. They have many like hands in different pies, just as Prime Media does, right? So Prime Media does own Ster-Kenny Core. Ster-Kenny Core. They've obviously got like Prime Media. What is it? It's not Outdoors. I think it's Outdoors, right? But we know that obviously the OH is there's a predominant like ownership in the space there from Prime Media. Prime Media is, obviously branched out in many different facets of media, right, as it is. And so those will obviously, they will complement one another. We can lean on each other's, internal backs. Will this trend continue? It's all about the small space of competitive marketing, competitive media in South Africa. That is a bit of the problem to answer that particular question. It'd be nice if we can see a little bit of again a cooperative support between different stations, different media sources, because we're only helping one another out to making products better. But again, it's most likely is going to be segmented to the different conglomerates, like I say. So within the SABC, they'll be have access to many, many different avenues of different types of media, right? Because of what the SABC does offer, right? And then again, within our privatized organizations, are there other forms of news and information distribution bound to come into this equation? Well, I mean, we have been able to quite comfortably say by now, after many, many years, that the digital space is something that obviously media conglomerates have to and already own. They take ownership. They have mastered quite a large extent to a large extent here in South Africa. Definitely getting the hang of things, yeah. And there's obviously seeing the value in it is not a guessing game anymore. We can definitely see how podcasting, we can definitely see how digital media, and obviously the selling factor of that, and obviously its draw factor, whatever it may be, and what it offers to, let's say, consumers. It's very beneficial. So definitely the equation is a much made of a longer list of variables, but and that does sum up to a cumulative sum of what, let's say, a media corporation can actually offer. Great TV news people come from radio. They do. Presenters do. Yes, presenters, broadcasters, that's an easy, like I said, easy transition when you are looking at production. Again, when you are looking at management, not so easy, right? Thing is that in radio, because we are so closely connected to stories and we are more naturally able to, get to the center of a story very quickly, especially in the way that we are masterful in connecting with a particular person, a real person, and also one individual becomes very second nature to us. We acclimatize very easily. It doesn't matter in what medium we actually move to. We hit the mark when it does talk when it does come to talking to one person very, 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 very quickly. Right. They can work without scripts. We can because we know how to improvise spontaneously. That's literally what the job is about. It's about being able to create magic moments from, let's say, a base prep or a base, a base construction of maybe like an interview we've done or whatever it is. Like we have to be natural and we have to have ownership of being able to spontaneously, consistently deliver. And where TV people are used to like the auto prompt, right, and teleprompt and scripts and whatever it is that kind of makes it quite, rigid in the way that they approach, let's say, like the broadcasting itself. Smart broadcasters use TV for what it does best, presenting pictures, right, to show events as they happen. With the internet, most radio personalities and programmers are becoming more experienced working with video to post on stations' websites. So something that we have mentioned before, and it's just one of those things where, yeah, it's become second nature to us as well. We might not be the best, I'm saying, like we might post content that isn't the edited the best, or doesn't have the great video proficiency of a video professional, but we do pretty well. Our digital marketers that do work for our station kind of bleed off those type of skill sets, and we also kind of force, we look around and we look at, let's say, amateur content providers and developers and content creators who do know how to use, let's say, Filmora. They do use like very easy, like phone apps, mobile apps that allow them to do great things with very simple instructions. It just takes just a little bit of effort, a little bit of interest, a little bit of time. Radio is great training if you wanna make the move to television, right? Again, only within the presenter broadcasting role. The other avenues, again, more difficult. More broadcasters found that they enjoy doing both. It is. So myself I've had many, many years of presenting television, and it's super easy. When I say super easy, because of that very natural progression of how to become comfortable behind a mic and speaking to quote unquote nobody in front of you, and being able to quickly create that connection. It's so easy to be in front of a camera and to be able to talk to a camera, be able to talk again. There is a bit of a script if it's necessary, but we know how to do live reads, and we know how to do live promos, and we know how to read facts, and we know how to again follow production. It's really easy for us, and we're normally more charismatic when it comes to putting us behind a or in front of a camera, right? Great storytelling and powerful communication are the keys to both. So our face for radio is genuinely no longer a thing anymore because of the fact that we do have social media and we are exposed and we have to expose ourselves too. Now, that's not saying if you're quote unquote unattractive, you can't make a connection with people. But in the olden days, like if you have a face for radio, they would literally mean like you are not suited for television. Like you can be any weight, any size, you can look any way, you can have any type of hair, you can have any color of skin, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Like you could do anything as long as it say what came out of your mouth was sound, right? Where on television, I mean, especially in this country, very, 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 very premeditated. You had to look a certain way, even though even now still, if you're gonna let's say gonna go and audition for a certain role, especially if it's let's say within the dramas or something that's been fiction, it's fictional, right? Like you do have to look a certain way, be a certain way, act a certain way, sound a certain way, deliver a certain way, whatever it may be, right? I understand that, right? But let's say being able to be a broadcaster, you just have to be, you have to wear a nice suit, or let's say be dolled up nice in certain like corporate attire to look just look presentable. Everyone can have a haircut. Everyone can everyone looks great with base like TV makeup or whatever it is, camera makeup. And so the thing is that if you are presentable, right, you are now able to cross the border, right, on both sides. Radio broadcasters should take it upon themselves to do as much as possible not to discourage television stations from utilizing them. So let's look at producing this pink elephant. A lot of TV interviews, discussions, or talking head programs are really just talk radio shows with cameras pointed at them. That's what I'm saying. The best thing, when I flourished actually in shows that were reality quote unquote shows, right? I can't act. I really, like, I mean, I'm even kind of like getting a bit of a shiver down my neck. I really am a terrible actor, but I'm a great presenter. Because again, you forget about the camera, even though you do have again camera cues, whatever it may be, right? And there are certain segues that you must, let's say, do direct to camera, right? But when it comes to the actual nitty gritty of getting gritty, in other words, like reality programming, we flourish and we are very easy. Like we're very easygoing, we're adaptable, and we definitely dominate like in comparison to, let's say, a traditionally like created or taught, whatever it is, um, TV presenter. Talented people can talk or can be taught to speak visually for radio reports. Sure. So if you have the X factor and you are a media, like you're media at heart, like you'll be able to adapt to any type of medium when given the chance. Radio people can be taught to leave space in their writing for pictures. TV and radio can promote each other, increasing visibility and audience. Right. So, what do we do here from TV to radio? This is the main thing. So, if you might be majoring in radio, TV, or radio, or both right now, I think maybe you do have to decide eventually in the third year, but you can also do both thing in the third year. But if you are like more so a TV person than a radio person, you do want to kind of explore both avenues. Well, one, learn how to speak to one person, right? So with let's say a television execution, we still have to talk to one person. Everyone looks with their own pair of eyes, as we have the same kind of argument when we teach radio. We say no one shares a pair of ears, right? We talk to one person, and it changes the delivery and so. But with TV, you might also get, again, it's a clinical kind of like premeditated way of being able to speak to a camera and have that pre-production phase, be able to execute quite eloquently without, little bits of like faux pas or whatever it may be, right? It's a little bit acting, because of the script side, and then obviously the reality side, which is comes from your presenting, being a broadcaster. Anyway, let's go back to getting your mind right for radio. If you're stuck for a way to begin a report, pretend the anchor has just asked you a question. Write the question into your report. With anything in radio, you got to when you do form segments of your link together, they should be answers to questions. So, what station are you on? Well, I'm on BMH radio. What's your name? I'm Chris Jordan. What time is it? It's, let's say, 41 past one. What do you want to talk about today? I want to talk about how to become a better radio personality if you are finding your segue and conversion from the television world. So what happens is that all you need to do is extract the questions and put just the answers all together for a natural like execution. And you'll see that the entire way that you approach a link and you approach presenting changes when you get that in your mind and you actually grasp the concept. Remember, like leave the questions out, and the answers to those questions are I'm saying the tone, the delivery, and the execution of how you're going to actually do the link is what's left, right? All the answers. It's okay to promote, so use TV to promote radio and radio to promote TV. It's okay to promote your TV news coming up on the radio, right? Whether on radio, TV, or the web, promote within your programming, right? So that cross promotion is very healthy. Again, when you are in your own organization that does have different avenues, definitely like it's a mandatory thing. Do cross promote, do push each other, because each facet should be able to offer the consumer, right? Now your customer instead of your listener, your customer different avenues of new values, right? Like new value in terms of what they are consuming, like the product that they're consuming, right? So use TV anchors and special reporters as regulars on radio shows, right? So what we do is we like to call them expert professionals, right? That we might find or we might source from, let's say, a TV environment or a TV station, whatever it may be, and we would like to include them. So it's so nice to include, let's say, entertainment divas, right? Socialites that can quote, like, let's say, they can comment on, let's say, local celebrity news or gossip, whatever it may be. So we'll like to do that kind of cross pollination and reach out and diversify our shows themselves. Keep radio in the newsroom and use multi-version, as we've taught in the previous lesson. I think it was the lesson before that. Remind the audience how the story affects them whenever possible, and then remember to make it matter. So, in other words, make sure that it's relevant, the right information is in there, and you deliver it in the correct way. All right, from radio to TV, on the other hand, we have to play to the visuals, right? People use less brain capacity watching television than they do when they are sleeping. So start with the best video. Not saying that any of the others must be less than, everything must be great, but the one that's most captivating is going to get the attention first, just like we do with a lead story, like a lead in a story in a news report, right? On radio. It's the same concept. Yeah, let's get the attention. Let's obviously retain that and move on. Put movement in each slot. Let the pictures tell the story, right? Because that's why they're there. Otherwise, you might as well do it in audio, right, on radio. Make good use of natural sound, right? So that kind of ambience. If you're at a concert, if you're at a car crash, if you are at a riot, whatever it is, make sure that you are far away enough so that your report can actually be heard when you're speaking into the mic. Um, but also make sure that you get that ambience that isn't because that kind of visual appeal and then that sound appeal and then obviously the delivery appeal and obviously that I'm saying too in terms of the actual content itself is really great. It's a great reason why we watch TV as it is, right? Do not overwrite, definitely, because we're not writing for print. We don't have the time. We don't also have the I'd say the attention span that you might find dedicated to print, right? And definitely to radio where they are using theatre of the mind. So we want to keep it quite simple. But with the facts that's necessary, or the segments, I'll say the factual information that is necessary, not always facts, but factual information. So not the same thing. Factual information can also include a basis for opinion. So use graphs, charts, and other ways to maybe imagine the stories better, understand stats, reviews, that type of thing. When you edit, do not hang on too long to the good shots, right? The essence is all about storytelling. When you're done here, here's the last slide. Grab the spotlight. Money can't buy happiness, but it can buy a TV and TV exposure. Right, it definitely can. So you need to try and find ways that you can, oh man, you can kind of get that publicity for free. Television stations always need new stories. So if you can find ways of giving them what they need, they won't ask you any money for the cover. Like as long as you're providing them with content, they are happy to take it because they also need to fill their own spots and their own, like I said, their own shows, etc. So when your station is taking calls from listeners on issues of the day, it makes a good TV public opinion story as well, right? So look at the different ways that we can, again, complement the visual medium with what we already know. Ask the listener, where are you right now? Can we go and, can we come and see you for maybe for a more in-depth interview, like an expose, that type of stuff? Or if you do want to maybe just play voice notes or like I say, boxes over visuals, that is also done in many instances, many choices to choose from. People do not make distinctions about where they can get news. Not anymore. They really don't. Just wherever it is and how easy it is and how much patience I have for it. Well, that's what I'm going to take, and I'm going to base my opinion and my worldly knowledge on that. Whether they read it, hear it, or hear about it, or watch it. Television, radio, the internet, video, audio, photos, and text are all parts of their information network. Let us look at the quiz for this lesson. Multiple choice. If you want to make it in TV news today, you must A, have a fashionable face, be willing to write other forms of news, have started in radio news, hire a grooming coach. So that one's quite clear. It's definitely not A. It's definitely not D. It's either B or C. The concept of letting your audience know what is coming next is known as producing the pink elephant, presenting a solution to every problem, promoting within your programming? Painting with pictures. If not D, it'd be A, B, or C. And I know that A looks quite familiar, right? Don't get it confused if maybe it is confusing. Number three, for radio news writers to become good TV news writers, they will need to add this to their arsenal of writing skills: being creative, avoid overwriting, making good use of natural sound, and letting pictures tell the story. Remember, this has to do with just the writing. So I think that's quite easy. True or false? Where news comes from is not a critical factor for audiences choosing news sources. Unfortunately, the answer to that is an unfortunate answer. Radio and TV news announcers should never mention the other station in their programming. Well, I did explain to you how people get funnier. Here's a short answer. Your local, short answer, it's required of you. Your local university called your newsroom to announce that they will hold a news conference at 10 a.m. tomorrow to reveal major expansion plans. Describe how a radio newsroom and a TV newsroom could use the same resources to cover this news conference and what types of stories were developed from the announcement, right? So there are many ways we can collaborate on one thing. Remember, we can also draw audio from visual content. We'll have field reporters that can also we can use the audio of, or they can actually act on both platforms, but the same reporter. All right, I'm not going to give you the whole answer. I think you know. All right, there are the key lecture points there, right, that you can have a look at. But other than that, that is the lesson in whole.